What's up, people? So today we're going over what Bitcoin is, why it's used, why it's not, and where it's used. And so fundamentally, what is a cryptocurrency? Basically, a cryptocurrency is a decentralized form of payment, which means that no single bank or government or anyone is has any influence over who has money, what it's worth, and who can pay for things with it. Basically, there's computers that solve very difficult problems, computational problems, to create a history of all transactions that have been made in a certain time frame. For Bitcoin, that's usually 10 minutes, which means all the computers that are working on solving the problem at any given time take about 10 minutes to finish encrypting a block so that it can be published. And basically, all Bitcoins that are in existence have been created this way. So there's no other way to create Bitcoins than have blocks added to the blockchain and have them mined. And I know that I'm leaving out a lot of details. Leave me a comment if you want me to go into detail. But that's like 5 different videos in itself. So basically, the first block that was mined only had the one transaction creating the first few Bitcoins. And all the coins that are in existence have been created in a block by a computer that was mining it, and then they've been transferred, or fractions thereof have been transferred to whoever, and you can basically track each and every Bitcoin or fraction all the way back to the block that it was mined in, which is very important. So the whole thing works by having thousands of computers work on verifying that every Bitcoin that was created only gets spent once. Which means if you have one Bitcoin right now, you can try to transfer it to 2 different people, but all the computers that are working to secure Bitcoin right now will prevent you from doing so. And because there's no other way to get Bitcoins into existence than having them mined, there's a very limited amount of Bitcoins in circulation at any given time. And actually, the total number of Bitcoins is limited because there will not be any new Bitcoins created after a while, and that is very long into the future. But already we're seeing a slowdown where it's almost to the point where more Bitcoins are getting destroyed than created. And the way you can destroy Bitcoins is you can lose the password to your account. No one will ever be able to spend those coins, and they are forever lost. And there have been people mining Bitcoins in the early days when Bitcoins were worth pennies, and they have lost thousands of Bitcoins because they threw away their computer or upgraded, and since it wasn't worth anything, they didn't really care. So you can lose Bitcoins, basically. They cannot be stolen from you unless you give someone your password, or, if it's easy to guess, basically the way someone hacks your account in any other way. But overall, they're extremely secure. So what are the advantages? There's the purpose of Bitcoin was to have a very low transfer cost to where you can send someone money all over the world, and you don't have to care about currency exchanges, about having to involve different banks, about having to do wire transfers that take multiple days. Basically, you're supposed to be able to transfer money very fast without exchange rates to anyone in the world, assuming both parties are using Bitcoin. It's also supposed to be completely anonymous. In practice, at this point, that's not the case because you can't really spend all your bitcoins on stuff without ever involving a bank to give you actual currency in whatever country you live in. In the future, when you can pay your rent with bitcoins, or you can buy stocks, or you can buy a house, there's going to be slightly more anonymity, but it's obviously going to be regulated by the governments that want tax income. Also, there's an incentive for mining, which means you secure the whole blockchain, you secure the whole currency, and you get paid for that. Now, that all is slightly spiraling out of control, with way too many people mining and way too much electricity being wasted on mining, and basically a lot of people mining that have no business mining because it's really not worth it if you're paying more than a few pennies on per kilowatt hour. So hit the like button, and the disadvantages are basically the same as the advantages, sadly. The transfer time. If you're transferring money internationally, obviously you don't mind waiting half an hour or an hour or multiple hours, possibly. If you were to be using Bitcoin to like buy a coffee or use it in day-to-day life, you really don't want to wait like half an hour for your transfer to go through. You don't want to be standing at Starbucks at the register for half an hour waiting for the transaction to get confirmed and be put into the blockchain. There's also a problem with the block size, and again, with every block being mined over a 10-minute time frame, you want as many transactions into the block as possible, but that makes it harder to actually compute the problem that is trying to be solved. So it's not uncommon, because of those things, to have transactions hours into the future, because the people mining the blocks actually don't put your transaction into the block, which leads to the transfer cost. You can give a transfer cost for every transfer that you're trying to do. So let's say you're trying to pay for a $5 coffee. You can add a transfer cost of, $5, $10, $30 to the transaction to make it be included in the block, because the transfer cost goes directly to the person mining the block. So they're going to put all the transactions into the block that have the highest transfer cost. So if you want things to go fast, it's not necessarily cheap. If you want things cheap, it's not necessarily fast. And as I alluded to earlier, the electricity cost of the whole thing is enormous and pretty much unfathomable. There's thousands and thousands of people mining with like server farms at this point. So the electricity footprint of Bitcoin alone is bigger than most countries, which is sad. So those are basically the reasons why I will not be investing in Bitcoin. The transfer time, the transfer cost, blocks always taking 10 minutes, I don't think makes it relevant as a currency in the near or far future. So unless they can fix their problems, I don't think Bitcoin really has a future as a widespread currency. Now, there's other coins that try to solve those problems, because of course there are. There's like 1,500 different cryptocurrencies. I will also not be investing in those at this point, but right now I really don't think Bitcoin is viable for anything other than, transferring money to far away countries with different currencies, different banking systems, and all that. So for day-to-day life, Bitcoin is really not what you want to use, and that's why I'm not going to invest in it.